All right.
Hello, Americans. I'm Bill Lipinski, and this is Two Guys on Politics. And here's the number one man, Ray Hanania.
And I am Ray Hanania. And just a note about this program for those watching it on video. Bill and I both had medical procedures done this past week. His is still continuing. So while I'm on camera on the video version, Bill is not able to be on camera. So he is there in audio. So the audio podcasters, you'll hear both of us. The video podcasters, you're just going to have to assume that the Palestinian asserted himself a little tougher this time. So, Bill,
I will not comment on that whatsoever.
So, Bill, last week, because of our procedures, we didn't do our show. So we're both back doing very well, by the way. But so much has happened, right? We have the Trump trial. Have you been following that?
Yes, I have been.
And has he been convicted and disparaged enough, or are they just going to keep continuing to go after him?
Well, first of all, I don't know if he's going to be convicted or not. Some legal experts say yes, absolutely, definitely. Others say no way will he be convicted. They didn't prove anything. I don't know what the truth is. What I do know is that if he is convicted, he will probably pick up another 5,000 to 10,000 votes, and he will probably go up a couple of more points in any poll he might encounter. So I don't think it hurts him at all. I think it helps him. And I think it's been a terrible mistake that the Democrats have been pursuing these cases against him at the present time.
Yeah, I've been listening to it. And, I used to not listen to CNN and MSNBC and all these other talking news stations because they're really full of hypocrisy. They exaggerate what they don't like and they minimize what they like, the criticism of what they like. And this Trump trial, it's almost as if they're already the jury. They've convicted him. You can't listen to CNN or MSNBC or the others without hearing the host, just say, "Oh, he's guilty." Absolutely, there's no question that this is all about that. But the more I listen to it, and if I ignore the media's bias, you can hear some of the facts in the case, and it really comes down to, Trump had paid off this woman, this pornographic actress and stripper who asserted or claimed that she had an affair with him, which he denied. And it was embarrassing for him. And they were going to pay her off to silence her. But in the process of doing that, I guess they had a meeting with the guy that owns the grocery store tabloid, who said that women come out and make these accusations against political, male politicians all the time to sell their stories and profit, whether it's true or not, and that they run these stories. But he would go out of his way to make sure that they weren't run, and they would help take care of, any of these women that would pop up against Trump. He would notify them, and they'd buy the story and kill it. They'd buy it and kill the story so it would never run, and then they'd own it. And this fell into that. Now, I don't know if it so much I think the crime is, did he do this because he was influencing the election? He was running for president at the time. Or did he do it because he was embarrassed that his wife was going to hear this and it was going to make life miserable at home? What do you think?
Well, I think it was that he was embarrassed and he didn't want his wife or his children to hear about it. So he was trying to silence the situation by paying her money. Now, the crime, as I understand it, is that he tried to cover up paying her the hush money by saying it was a campaign expense. Well, maybe it is a campaign expense. If that information getting out on her part, and not if it is not true, and it was going to hurt his campaign, then I guess he's got a perfect right to spend campaign money to give her hush money so she won't go out and hurt his campaign. As it turns out, though, the Democrats, to me, with all these cases against him, thought it was going to hurt him, but it hasn't. It's boomerang. Right. Every single case has helped him in the polls, helped him with people, because people think he's being persecuted. And I'm talking about people who didn't vote for him the first time or the second time, but because of the cases up against him, he is now seriously, being considered by many of these swing voters as someone to vote for.
I mean, and the media, I think, is going all out. The Democrats, for sure, are going all out because they know that Trump is a threat. Biden is weak. He's lost. He had a big support among Arab and Muslims, 4 million voters in 3 swing states that are not going to vote for him no matter what he does. He's going to lose those swing states. And as much as the media is trying to play that down, Biden is having problems in other areas too. And the polling, which the media now says, oh, polling doesn't matter, although they're the ones selling the polling all the time. They're trying to make it sound like this is a terrible guy. This case is very important. He's a criminal, that this is a felony. Honestly, I don't know how it would be a felony. I mean, I wouldn't consider it a felony if someone made an accusation against somebody and they wanted to give them money, and it's their business to do whatever they want. I mean, did he lie to the FBI in filings? I don't think so. It's not like perjury. Did he try to keep it a secret? Of course he did, because the whole point was not to let her get her accusation out. Whether it's true or not, we don't know. But they've certainly really pumped her up to make her look like she's just a great person. But they depend a lot on his former attorney, who went to jail and admitted being a big liar.
Yes, he's not exactly the most honest person that has ever walked the streets of New York. That's for sure. It's as I say, Ray, I don't think he'll be convicted. And I hope that he won't be convicted, because I am not a fan of his. I don't want to see anything good happen to him. On the other hand, Joe Biden, I just think, is too old for the job, not bigger enough for the job. So where I'm going to vote, I really don't know. But I will find it pretty tough to believe I can vote for either one of these two guys. And I know I will not vote for Trump, because he has just come across as such a reprehensible person at times. Right. I just cannot support him.
And no offense to you, because I've always respected you as a politician, but if you put all the politicians in a bowl, they've never said politicians were reprehensible. This guy, to me, the hypocrisy is there have always been some reprehensible politicians.
Yes.
And I stress it. I mean, one reason why we're friends, I've covered you and known you all your life as a politician. You've always been honest and upfront, and I don't consider you in that category whatsoever. But politics is a dirty business, and this idea that somehow the Democrats are clean politicians, and I'm talking about on the national level, is laughable. They have some of the worst politicians, just like they do on the Republican side. But to me, he's just not a politician. I think that's always been his problem. He's not a politician. He's a businessman. And maybe mixing business and politics isn't, a good thing. So, but in order to convict him, they'd have to get all of the jurors to agree that he's guilty, right?
Yes, that is correct. Yes.
And that would be beyond a reasonable doubt.
Yes.
And so that means that one person could say, well, I have a reasonable doubt, but they threw, I think, 34 charges against him, hoping that one will stick, right?
Yeah, well, I think many of them are duplications, quite frankly. This is a terrible time for the country, Ray.
Absolutely.
I had an answer for us, but I don't have an answer for us. I just hope that he's not convicted, because if he is convicted, he's going to gain some points in the polls. He's going to gain some voters, and it's going to be that much more difficult for him not to be elected president of the United States. Now, does that mean that Joe Biden, is going to be the president of the United States again? I don't know. I'm not so sure that Joe Biden could not possibly be replaced at the Democratic convention here in Chicago. It could happen. They could come up with a different candidate.
I think that would be a phenomenal option, an alternative to this dire predicament that we're in, because I totally agree with you. I think Biden has been a terrible, weak president. He's conveyed weakness, which is why I think Russia invaded Ukraine, which is why I think Israel has gone off the deep end, and their response to that October 7th terrorist attack by Hamas, which is a terrorist organization. But Israel has been acting like Israel's government, I'll say, not the Israelis, but Israel's government. They've been acting like a terrorist organization, dropping bombs on tents. And in order to get somebody that they think is a bad person, they accuse them of being a bad person. They've never convicted a lot of these people. They're willing to blow up 40 and 100, civilians, mostly women and children. And that war never would have gone that far had we had a strong president. Now, I don't know if Trump could have stopped it, but Biden was a weak president, and both of these wars are depleting our resources. Israel's using our military arms and our money, $40 billion. We're spending billions we're sending to Ukraine because we can't allow the Russians to win. The price of weakness is so terrible. I just can't ever see Biden coming back. It would be the worst thing for this country. And then I'm looking like you, looking back at Trump and thinking, wow, okay, he's not a politician, but he was so petty. He was so, his rhetoric was terrible. He's so disrespectful to women. He has so many problems that overshadowed any good that he could argue that he had. And then I have to think, where are we? It's terrible. We're just going to have to go through another bad period for 4 years.
No matter
in
which
the hopes,
become president once again. I see now that finally the Biden administration is allowing the Ukrainians to use our weapons to actually strike into Russia itself.
Yeah.
Which
we
is
should have done that a long time ago, right?
Absolutely. No question about it. You can't possibly win a war when the country that you're fighting against, has a sanctuary of their entire country and they cannot be attacked, at home. I mean, you can't win. It's impossible. So I'm glad that Joe finally got around to allowing the Ukrainians to do that. I hope those fighter planes that he promised, 4, 5, 6 months ago, I hope they get off the ground pretty soon, because I'm sure the Ukrainians could certainly use them in this fight against Russia.
We have to beat Russia. There's no question about it. There can't be a compromise. There can't be a peace accord. We can't allow Russia to come out of this saying we've taken what we wanted out of Ukraine, because the next thing, they can move against any other country and do the same thing. And if our response is the way it has been with Ukraine, Russia is being encouraged. It's just that the embargo against Russia, I think, has hampered him tremendously. But I agree with you that loosening up the restrictions on Ukraine, they should be allowed to attack Russia anytime they want with any of this equipment. And had they been able to do that in the beginning, I don't know if Russia would be enjoying this failed war that they've been doing now for over almost 2.5 years. Remember, it was only going to be 3 days.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Putin said, and now it's 2.5 years. But we can't let him win, because if Ukraine surrenders, if we compromise, we're the losers. And I think these other nations are going to look at us and say, they can't depend on us anymore. Now, one alternative, obviously, to Trump and Biden might be Robert F. Kennedy. He's slowly getting his name on all the ballots across the country. I think he's like on 26 or 27 ballots now. He still has to get up to 50, obviously, but he still has time to do it. And We saw that, we talked about this last time, that they're going to have this presidential debate between Biden and Trump. But they don't want Robert F. Kennedy in there, and they're intentionally keeping him out. He tried to place an ad in the New York Times saying I should be included in the presidential debates. And they said they weren't happy with his ad, so they blocked it. They wouldn't allow him to place the ad. Now, it just seems the whole system is corrupt. I'm
Well,
just disappointed.
the New York Times is in the pocket of Joe Biden and the Democrats. There's no question about that. They're not going to do anything to help Trump. They're not going to do anything to help Kennedy. And I've read over the complaint that Kennedy filed with the Federal Election Commission. And it seems to me that he has some very good grounds for demanding that he be included in the debate. He is on the ballot certified in states that would give him 117 or 127 electoral votes if he were to win those states. Now, Trump and Biden are not certified in any states whatsoever. It's a technicality, but it's because they have not had their conventions yet. In one of
Right.
the CNN says, you have to be in a position to accumulate 270 electoral votes before we allow you into the debate. Well, right now, Biden and Trump, they can't accumulate any because they're not certified. Now, the
Right.
states could act to certify them, but they haven't so far. They've been waiting until the convention. So, I think that argument on the part of CNN goes out the window. And then they talk about, he has to have so much following in polls. Well, from what I understand, he's got
He's double
following
digits, easy.
in a number of polls that would qualify him. So I think it's a blatant attempt to keep him out of it. And I think it's because both Trump and Biden believe that he is detrimental to their campaigns. Now, they haven't figured out who he takes more votes from, Trump or Biden, but they know he is a problem. So they have really come together to bar him from having the opportunity to affect this election.
Yeah, I mean, listen, if he takes 50 to 70 electoral votes, he could prevent either former president and current president from winning the nomination, from winning the presidency. The winner has to have 270 votes. And as we've talked about before, it would go to the House to decide who would become the president then. And that could be, jammed up for months. Who knows how long that would take? It could be dragged into court battles. The Senate would pick the vice president, correct? And my guess is that I think Trump is going to win, or we get the largest votes. And I think his vice presidential candidate, whoever that person is, might end up becoming the acting president in a fight like this, if we actually see a significant division of those electoral college votes and those super votes.
Well,
Who do you think? Who do you think is Trump's vice presidential candidate? Do we know?
I have no idea at the present time. If I was Trump, I frankly would pick Michael Scott because
Yes.
I would eat into the, and I don't really think much of Scott anymore because I was at a meeting several months ago where he came across as being very anti-Trump, and now he's doing everything underneath the sun to be selected as Trump's running mate. But I think he would eat into the Black African-American Democratic vote, which would help Trump. So I think he may very well pick Scott.
Yeah, and I hope it's not Nikki Haley, because she was, appointed by him. They got into a fight. It was a vicious, terrible fight during the presidential, primaries. She lost, and now she's turned around and completely said, well, I'll support him because she's hoping he picks her as the vice president. And I think she recognizes that there's a potential for the vice president on his ticket become the acting president of the United States. My guess is, and I'll put money on this, I doubt that Kamala Harris will be in a position to be picked as the acting president in a situation like that. But it's just terrible. The whole thing, isn't it? Why? These are things that we're talking about are shameful. These
Absolutely.
are things that shouldn't be taking place in our country, in America. This should not be allowed to happen, but all these things are happening. It's degrading us, it's undermining us as Americans, and it's not even about debates anymore. It's about hatred. People hate each other so
Yeah,
much.
we're supposed to be the leaders of the free world. We can't even really lead ourselves in a just fashion, quite frankly. I mean, we are in bad shape. God has to intervene, I hope, to do something about it because it doesn't seem like we're capable of doing it ourselves.
I think we're very vulnerable too. And I think if there was some nut job out there, and we know that there are a bunch of them, they might look at us and say, if America were ever any weaker, this would be the moment to strike us. So it worries me that, we continue to go down this rabbit hole of weakness. We're not coming out of it. And which brings us to that one little controversy that anything now has become a controversy. If Republican does it, it's automatically a shame. It's an outrage. This thing has to do with Justice Samuel Alito, a member of the 9-member U.S. Supreme Court. He said, somebody said, a neighbor actually, that he flew a flag upside down, in front of his house. And now the Democrats are beaten, and the media is joining in. They want him to resign from the U.S. Supreme Court because they know that that'll help the Democratic Party. They're not asking him to really resign because of that issue of the flag. They want him out because they know the Republicans control the Supreme Court, the conservatives control the Supreme Court, and they may have a say in what happens in the presidential election, in Trump's legal battles. It's just another example of this craziness where stupid things have become major issues.
Yes, that's absolutely correct. And I just, well, I'm really disgusted in thinking about it all and talking about it all. I wish I had an answer, but I do not have an answer. I understand, according to the Supreme Court justice, that his wife flies different flags all the time. He
Right.
has to do with it, and she's got some feud going on with a neighbor, and he thinks that she's a free woman. She has a right to do what she wants to do. You would think that the Democrats, who are always talking about helping women, would have rushed to her aid instead of attacking her husband for saying he's flying the flags. But they, of course, they have not, because that would go against their basic desire to say anything a Republican thinks is good is really wrong.
And it's always been a Democratic and liberal position that you could burn the flag, you could wear the flag in protest. I mean, not out of disrespect, but as an act of protest. They have always argued that. They've
Oh, yes.
always, they have not defended the flag at all. They've been the leaders of allowing people to do whatever they want to the flag. And it's always been conservatives and Republicans that have stood up against it. So the irony to hear the liberal media and the Democrats insist that this is a crime and terrible act by Alito and he should step down is such hypocrisy. It just tells us how fragile this country really is. I mean, the U.S. Code is very clear. It says there shouldn't be any disrespect shown to the flag. The fact is, there is disrespect shown to the flag all the time. Flags are burned, flags are worn, flags are ripped up. They do all kinds of things to the flags in an act of protest. But that's part of our democracy. We allow our people to criticize our government, unlike you can't do that in the Soviet Union, the new Soviet Union. You can't do that in Iran. You can't do that in North Korea. You can't do that in China. But you should be able to do it in a democracy, even if it's disrespectful. But if you don't have the right to protest against your own government and the symbols of your government, what kind of freedom do you really have? It's just, it makes no sense to me. It's terrible.
I agree with what you have to say, Ray. And well, I've said my piece in regards to all of these situations that we are facing today. I just hope that somehow some people come forward that are willing to once again try to unite this country, because we're going to have to be united again if we are really going to face all the international challenges that we have. You mentioned them: Russia and China, Iran, North Korea. All of these are people who hate us, who want to destroy us. And unless we're united, I don't know that we can defeat them again.
Yeah, it's depressing. I agree with you, Bill. All right, I'm Ray Hanania,
I'm Bill Lipinski.
and this has been Two Guys on Politics. And we're glad to be back, and we look forward to speaking with you guys again next week. You guys have a great week, and we will talk to you again. Everybody, bye-bye.